Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2022 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are presented by Honda and Honda HPD, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, SVRA, McGilvery's Pub and Eatery and Speedway, and BP Insurance. Should there be a reason that you want to know what's going on with IndyCar, I got a suggestion. You find out all of the PR that's coming out of all the teams. Very simple. Subscribe to Trackside Online. Just go to tracksideonline.com and sign up for it. It's less than $25 a year, I believe. You get all the information, all the teams, everything that's going on. It's great. Did you make a resolution this year that you're going to get your dental work taken care of? Well, if you did, I've got a place for you to go. The Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller, 500 veteran, and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis, have a spectacular practice. And I'm going to tell you, you will love the people they have. And if you need extractions, Dr. Jack does that as well. If you need an appointment, give them a call. And I highly recommend 317-846-6125. You know, there's a way to find out why these guys and gals love driving Indy cars, and that's very simple. Go to the IndyRacingExperience.com, find a date that they're running that you can make it, and sign on and make an appointment. Book yourself a ride, and in the promo box, put DK1, you get a 50% discount. That's Indy Racing Experience at IndyRacingExperience.com. Find a date that works, book a ride, DK1 in the promo box, you get a 50% discount. You know, the insurance commissioner says every few years you need to check your insurance against others to make sure you're getting a good price. So if you want to check it and want to make sure, do it. Most of us have done and found we get better prices. Go to VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Call Mike Pardee. His number is 317-248-0070. Tell him what you're looking for, and you might be surprised like we have. Get a better coverage for less money. That's VP Insurance in Speedway, 317-248-0070. And if you're into SVRA, which is vintage cars, and also the Trans Am, which the series is taking off like crazy. We're getting huge car counts. Go to svra.com and look at their schedule, see where they're running and when. And if you get a chance, if you can get there in an hour's drive, I highly recommend go. And a lot of the drivers that you knew as kids, they're back driving again, around on the track. And also, I recommend you subscribe to Speed Tour Magazine. That covers all of their events, what they're doing, who's doing it, and where. So check it out. That's svra.com. Look at the schedule, go to a race when you get a chance, and subscribe to Speed Tour Magazine.
My guest today is a gentleman that I met back in 1998, I believe, when he came to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as a rookie. But he wasn't a rookie driving cars. He spent many of his upcoming years, actually from 1983 to 1995, he was an SCCA. He competed in the SCCA Nationals. He won it once in 1986. And he had top five finishes over that period. He won championships all along the way. And in 1998, he came to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And of all things, I know guys that ran here 30 years, never had a podium. His first rookie year, he had finished third. He was on the podium. He was Rookie of the Year. He now has a very thriving business. It's called Elite Engines. He builds engines for the US F2000 series. Among other things, he's located in West Bend, Wisconsin. I want to welcome my friend, Mr. Steve Knapp. Steve, I know you got a good business while whoops, all of a sudden you disappeared on me.
Oh,
there you go.
You're back.
Okay.
That's me.
Yeah, that's West Bend, Wisconsin for you.
That's my bad.
What got you started in motorsports? Keep leaving me.
Well, my interest came from my dad. My dad was into the SCCA club racing, and I got to go to the races and got the bug from doing that. But you know, even before that, I would say that I got the bug from watching TV, the earlier 500s that I can remember. Yeah, once I saw it in person, I was hooked. I knew that this was my avenue.
Did you have it once you got the bug? Did you want to become a professional race car driver?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a driver right away. The speed and everything was a big attraction. We didn't really have any karting places around us where I grew up in Minnesota, but motocross was pretty big. So I spent my early years on motocross bikes and got into the racing through my dad when I was 18. Back then, you had to be 18 to get a license.
Yeah.
And so I did Formula V with for 3 years, and then I went and got a deal done with Carl Haas to get a free Lola chassis to do the '86 Sports 2000 Championship, and continued that relationship with Carl for a long time. We got another new car in '87. We were champion in that as well. So this was back when the Sports 2000 series was pretty heavily, the entries were 50, 60 cars all the time. And we finished on the podium in every race. In '86, we missed 2 podiums from DNFs, I think. And then in '87, we were first or second in every race. And so Carl was taking a pretty good interest in me. And from that point on, we did some club stuff with him. I met Adrian Renard from over in the UK, and he was over here doing some deals with Carl. And Carl was starting to import some Continental cars, some Formula Continentals, Reynard chassis. So we ran those for a year, and just in like SCCA nationals, tried selling some cars for them. And then I went to work at the Newman Haas team for 2 years doing the test team program, not as a driver, as a mechanic. And me and Ray Sorensen, a buddy of mine, we were like pretty much the entire test team, other than we would get, the race mechanics would come to the test for the grunt power, but in between times it was just me and Ray pretty much. And that was a lot of fun. We got to spend a lot of time with the Andretti's, obviously, with Mario and Michael being the drivers, which today you look at Michael and what he's done with Andretti Autosport, and it really, really incredible, and tons of respect.
When you got to the Speedway, what impressed you the most or scared you the most? Because most guys, when they come out there the first time, and particularly now, not so much back when you came in, but now they come from Brazil, they come from Europe, Formula One, and they'd never run an oval before in their life. And I've asked them, what do you think about ovals? Well, scared. After 30 or 40 laps, they start to like it because of the competition, the speed, and that thing. But what got your attention the most when you came to the Speedway?
The Speedway wasn't, I felt pretty prepared when I got there, even though I had never driven or raced an IndyCar before. And I got all that experience in what is the road to Indy now, in Ford 2000 and Atlantic at the time. So I knew about ovals and knew how to race on them already. And probably if we back up a little bit, when I tried to get my license at the IRL, they didn't want me to just come to the Speedway to do rookie orientation. They wanted to see me drive a current car somewhere. And so they made me do a rookie test, which I got on board with, at the time, my cousin Tom and Greg Ray were doing their own privateer program. And they were running a couple of guys out at Las Vegas for their rookie tests. So I got to tag along, and I got a seat made, and the first day, they weren't going to put me in the car until after these two guys had gotten through their rookie test, because they didn't want me to break the car and lose their money or whatever. So it was the end of the first day, and both drivers got through 2 stages, I think. And my cousin Tom said, "Why don't you jump in the car and just go out there and do a few laps?" It was already like 10 to 4, and the sun goes down behind the mountain at 4, and it gets dark pretty quick. And so I jumped in the car, and I went out there, and I was just holding the throttle about 3/4 of the way open. Now, getting back to what you asked me, what was what impressed me or whatever, when I let the clutch out in that thing, and it's got obviously a very tall first gear in it, and I'm feeling the car shaking, and I'm going down pit lane, and all of a sudden it was time to turn. We were at the end of the pit lane already, and I'm like, I'm idling, and it's happening fast already. So, but anyway, I went out there, and I was holding the throttle like 3/4 of the way open, and I would go a little bit more each time, because I don't want to upset the car turning into the oval. And I don't know if I don't think the mapping was done quite right, because it holed a piston and blew a rod out the side of it. And I went spinning. And the funny thing is, one of your counterparts there from racer.com, Marshall Pruitt.
Oh, yeah.
He was the data guy at the time. And so as I'm going down the back straight, and I don't know, probably only doing like 180 or something, but all of a sudden it drops a cylinder and spins in its own oil. It just exploded itself. And as I'm spinning down across the apron and heading up to the outside wall, I hear Marshall Pruitt's on the radio, and he's like, "Shut it off, shut it off." I'm already like way out of control to be worried about shutting the engine off. But anyway, so then we came. Yeah, I didn't crash, believe it or not. I got it stopped, and I bumped the nose into the wall. And then there was enough of a banking there that I came off and turned around. And when I got down to the bottom, got into pit lane, Brian Barnhart was there, and I don't remember who the driver guy was, but anyway, there was oil dripping off of the mirrors of the car, and as I'm getting out of the car, Barnhart says, "Well, that's not the first impression we wanted you to have." So anyway, I spent that whole night at the Super 8 Motel in Las Vegas on the north side of town, with the hot water on in the bathtub and the intercooler, as I was trying to get all the bearing material out of it, because the team had an engine to put in the car to finish the day tomorrow, but they didn't have another intercooler. So I think Cousin Tom and Marshall Pruitt, they came into the hotel about, I don't know, midnight, 12:30, something like that, and I'm still in there, just steam coming out of the bathroom and shit, this thing. And to this day, I think about the poor maid that had to clean that bathtub next to. But we got it clean enough, and went out, and the other guys did their stuff for a while, and then I got in, and actually at the time I ran through all 4 stages in 40 laps, and that was the first, they said. So that was pretty cool.
It's interesting motorsports, you think, you hear these other sports and all of the problems, but in motorsports, you know, there's some, not that they're not brilliant people in other sports by any means, but to me, some of the smartest people I've ever run across, and one of the reasons I'm still here is they're fun to watch and work with. The coordination, the knowledge, what's come out of racing going on to street cars is amazing, from tires to engines. And of course, as everybody knows, the rearview mirror came out of Indianapolis at one time early on. It's just a great group of people and fun people to work with. And the coordination, to me, it is the epitome of a team sport, because you as the driver are like the quarterback in NFL football team. You get all the credit, but there's 8 or 9 or 10 guys that give you the car to be able to do what you do best.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when I went back in my younger days, when I went to work at Newman Haas, and at the time I was at Bertels Race Engines in Antioch, and when I got to Newman Haas, it was a instant lesson in how much work could get done in a given amount of time if you had the right people and the right coordination doing it. It was, that's what kept me going there every day. You know, I didn't mind the 7 to 7, 7 to 9 hours we were pulling all the time, just because it wasn't chaotic. You know, it was organized, it was thought out, it was a team effort. And when you got done, or if 3 other guys got done with their jobs, you know, they don't just leave and go. Everybody chips in until everything's done, and out the door you go. And you know, Carl Haas used to say that the hardest thing about running a race team is the people, getting the right people and getting them to work together. And once that gets accomplished, it's pretty amazing what can be done.
I can remember when I first started coming to Indianapolis Motor Speedway I used to go to races, but I'd never been to Indianapolis until 1963 or 64. And I got in the grandstands and I'm watching and thinking, God, these guys just roll a car out of a truck, polish it up a little bit and go run. Well, after a couple of years, when I got really involved and ended up working with a team, that was the last thing that ever happened. Amazing the amount of hours that goes into putting a car on the racetrack. You don't see it, they're in the garage. But you know, you go out for a run at night, they take the car apart, check everything out, put it all back together. At the time, it was the bear rack. You'd string the car and set it up. I mean, the work that went into getting these cars on the track, and not only in Indianapolis, at all of the IndyCar races. It's a tremendous amount of work to get these cars to work right. And even after that, some of them don't work right, then they got to adjust them.
Yeah.
Holy smoke, that doesn't feel right. And I've always found, as you have, most important thing is for the driver and the crew chief to be on the same page. When you tell him something, he can see what you're telling him is on the tires or wherever they find it. You know, it is a complete team effort.
Yeah.
Now, you quit, you drove 13 starts in IndyCar. You were Rookie of the Year in '98. You finished on a podium in your first 500-mile race. Once you left IndyCar, did you race more, or did you go into the mechanical end with the elite engines?
No, when I stopped racing IndyCar, I pretty much stopped. I was lucky enough, some friends of mine, Pabst Racing and Tonis Kasemets, they were doing that 25-hour, 25 hours of Thunder Hill. And I got to go and run that with them. And it turned out real fun for Tonis and I, because the other 3 guys, they all had issues, and basically Tonis and I did most of the 25 hours. So that was fun. But no, as far as like when I left Indy, when I walked out of there when was it? I was there in 2001, when I didn't get in, I pretty much just left it because I wasn't, I had experienced the speed, I'd experienced everything. I was just really demotivated, I should say. And I look back on that, if that was the right choice or not. From the business standpoint, it was. Could I have kept driving? You don't know. But the thing that I didn't like about being a driver in the IRL was it was always the money. You always, everyone at the time was looking for money, and crashes were like 50-50 whether you were going to be involved in one during the weekend, and the people, it was a tough financial road for a lot of people. But when I left, I had a lot of good memories there. I mean, when I came back and I got hurt in 98, and the next race I went to in 98, I went with PDM to Dover, if you remember the Dover race there. And, qualified fifth. We were the fastest G-force in the field. And we didn't test there at all. The rest of the whole series tested there for 2 days, except for us. Just to qualify that high in the second race that I entered, I thought that was pretty cool. And then I got hurt later in the year at Atlanta, broke my neck and had some nerve stuff, and then the fun came back again in 2000 when I went. I stopped out at the Speedway to say hi to Mitch Davis, who was my crew chief in 98, and my cousin Tom, who at the time was now head of Menard. I went out there just to say hi because I was in town for Bruce May's funeral, a buddy of mine, Formula Ford racer. And Mitch said, "Hey, we're building a car back at the shop with an Infinity engine in it. Do you wanna drive it?" And I lost my mind for a while and took my shifter cart to Florida for about a week, pounding around. But that's the only thing I'd driven since I crashed at Atlanta. And so I was like, sure. And I ran home and got my gear, and I came back and I got everything fitted to the I made my seat, but I made my seat in Robbie Buell's spare car because Robbie was the main driver there. And now Robbie and myself were a little different in height. And so I made the seat in Robbie's car, and I told the guys when they were building my car, I said, just put the pedals as far away from me as you possibly can. And so they built the car, and they got it done on the last day of qualifying. So I hadn't done anything yet. And Robbie got in the car, and Robbie went out and did he got up to 210 or something, and came in and said it feels decent, and they put my seat in it and stuff. And I went out, and the first time I went through turn one, I thought the thing was understeering so bad that I was going to knock the wall down. And I'm only doing 195 mile an hour or something, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing back out here? And I was really second guessing myself. Well, we got back into pit lane, and back then you had to tow back to the garages to get your fuel done, right?
Yeah.
So I said, I don't want to waste any time here because it's already like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't even done more than a lap, and we need fuel. And so I stayed in the car, and as they told me, and I turned the wheel, my hand was hitting my thigh pretty heavy. And I was like, you know what? I bet that was happening on the track. So we get done with fuel and get back to the pit lane, and I had the mechanic pull the steering column off of the rack, and I just clocked the wheel about 40 degrees to the right and set it back on the rack, and he tightened the bolt, and I went out there and I did like 217 right away, first time by. And when I came back in, and Mitch said, well, what do you think? And I said, I say start trimming it out because I'm flat. And he's like, no, you're not flat. And he showed me on the telemetry that as I'd go through the corners, you know, through the ripple bumps, my foot was like dancing on the throttle. Well, I started, so then when I saw that, I pushed the throttle pedal down, and I realized that, hey, my legs are all the way back, the pedals are all the way forward. I mean, for me to get flat out, I was almost using the tips of my toes to push the pedal down all the way. So now we're losing time now. Now it's like, you know, 3:30, 4 o'clock, or it might even been later than that. Yeah, I think the whole thing started later because we didn't get, I ended up getting, I think it was 12 laps of practice. And we're in line. And so to solve the throttle thing, I knew myself just from looking at the car and being familiar with the cars. I was like, there's no time to do this the proper way. So I jumped out of the car, and I got a little setup block out of a mechanic's toolbox. It was probably a half an inch thick or something. I taped it to the bottom of my shoe and just wrapped the tape around my boot, and I jumped back in, and that felt a lot better right away. And I went out and we ran again, we ran once like that and did like 219. Yeah, we did one run, did 219. I came in, I jumped out of the car again, put one more block on it because I still wasn't, it was better, but they could still see I was coming off. And so then Mitch said, well, let's just line up at the qualifying line, and we'll do a run, we'll wave it off, and then we'll get back in line again, and then we'll go. So we roll up to the line there, and as soon as we pulled up into the line, the whole world pulled in behind us in line. So Mitch said to me, hey, you know what? This might have to be it. I don't know if you're going to be able to get back through the whole line by the time the gun goes off. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, if you know how to take the downforce out of it, even front to rear, take another, whatever you think is safe and pull it out. And so went out there, took the green flag, and we were like 221, 221, 221, 221. And when I got done with that run and got out of the car and everything, and it started to soak in a little bit, I was like, that was insane what I just went through today for not driving anything since I broke my neck. But yeah, that's the stuff I thrive on.
Well, you said you drove for Augie Paps. Did you ever drive with driver Don Devine? I'm sorry? Did you ever drive Augie with a driver by the name of Don Devine?
No.
Go for Augie. Sports cars for him. Now you decide it's time for me to put my helmet on the shelf, polish it up a little bit, and let everybody admire it. And you got into your company. Now you're the owner and runner operator of Elite Engines. And Elite Engines, if anybody pays attention, and I am one who does, strangely enough, are the primary supplier for US F2000 National Championship Series currently.
Yeah, we're actually, Elite Engines is the supplier for the Road to Indy for both the USF 2000 Championship and the Indy Pro 2000 Championship. And that all started, the USF 2000 started in 2010 with the tube frame Van Diemen / Elan car. And then Tatis built a new chassis in 2017 that Anderson Promotions brought into the program. And we've been involved with the official Road to Indy since it started basically in 2010. There was always a thought of when we would build a new USF car to get a carbon car, could we make it so that it could be adaptable, updatable to go to the next level, which is it was called Pro Mazda at the time, but now it's called Indy Pro. And so the car was designed that way, the engine was designed that way. Now we're building engines for the USF Juniors, which is a class that is going to come in underneath USF 2000. The unique thing about it is the USF 2000 engine in the car. And the car is actually for 23 will actually be a USF 2000 chassis. The only thing different about the car is it will have smaller brakes on the car. And so a parent could actually buy one of these USF junior cars for little money, upgrade it to a USF 2000 car, and again, upgrade it to a Indy Pro car and get, 3 levels of racing with one chassis. The engine is going to be the exact same thing as the USF 2000 engine, just with a different restrictor plate on it, taking about 30 horsepower out of the motor. And, they're going to last forever. We're going to build them and put them in, and we'll never see them back again, probably.
That could be the end of Elite Engines then?
Yep.
Have you explored or been interested or invited to look at perhaps the Indy Light Series, building engines for them?
You cut out there. I missed the question.
I said, has anybody inquired of you building Indy Lights engines?
No, not yet. We'll just get through this USF juniors program, and that'll be our 3rd full-time series that we're taking care of, and see where we go from there. I have one little passion that I have outside of the Road to Indy is I have a modular engine configuration upstairs in my head here that I would like to develop, that could be utilized in all kinds of cars, vehicles, race cars. So, we have our full CNC shop here within Elite Engines and design department and everything. And it would be, it'd be fun to create our own race engine from scratch.
Now, your son works with you. Has he ever had the urge to get it behind the wheel of a car, or have you told him that's not a good idea?
Well, I told him a long time ago that he can do it just like I did, and go out there and start working it, because, it's funny. I was listening to that. There's a radio show, Dinner with Racers, I think is the name of it. And they were talking to Chris Simmons and Michael Cannon from Ganassi. And I've known Michael Michael used to work on my 86 Sports 2000, and they were talking about how I don't know how I got on this subject, but they were talking about how every professional racing stories, driver stories starts with something that's either total bullshit or lying to someone, and that's how your career starts. And I back to your question on how Logan can get behind the wheel. He can do it like I did. I just walked into Carl Haas's office. I sat down in front of him. He goes, Can you win, kid? And I said, yeah, I can win. And he said, do you got the money for the whole budget? And I had 2 paychecks saved up, and I had them in my left front pocket that was just, it was about $1,600, and I looked him square in the eye and I said, I got the whole budget, Carl. And he picked up the phone and told Szymanski to put my name on a car. It was pretty funny. But anyway, yeah, no, Logan, he can give it a whirl, but he knows how expensive it is, and he sees firsthand, So I don't think he's not really jumping at it.
I think you probably keep him busy. You hadn't got time anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's what we like to do.
Well, your story, I think, is very interesting in the way you got to where you got to run 3 times the Indianapolis 500. There are guys that never qualified and made, attempts and never made it. There were guys that I know that ran the series and the Speedway for 30 years, never had a podium. You did that your first time out. A very interesting career you've had in racing, and you've stuck around with it. You have, well, enough of this stuff. I could go sell pencils in a hardware store. You've stuck with motorsports. You've stuck with the part that you understood and learned early on how to build engines, and how to make the cars go. So I think it's kind of interesting story, and I look forward to seeing you at the racetrack from time to time. By the way, just crossed my mind. Your engines are so efficient. When you go to the racetrack, what do? How often do you lose an engine?
Well, knock on wood, everything's going well. We did have issues with the PM18 engine when we first started. The engine itself is based off of an engine that we use in Formula Atlantic, and the difference between the Formula Atlantic car and the Tatis Indy Pro car, the engine is so solidly mounted in the car, and it's 100% stressed. There are no supports or trunnions or anything. So it loads the engine, and it puts stress on the engine. And it took us a while to, and when you put load and stress, then harmonics get really important. And it took us a while to get on top of all of that, but we had a really good year last year. We didn't have any issues last year, and we expect the same again this year and all into the future.
In other words, you go to the racetrack, you just get a lounge chair, sit back, relax, have a Mai Tai, and enjoy the weekend.
We do get accused of looking like the Maytag repairman, but that's fine with me. I know everything's going good if I get a nap in the afternoon at the racetrack.
Well, that's not to say that you don't spend a lot of time in rebuilds and building engines during the week, but you go the weekend and if your work shows for itself that everything you've done works.
Yep.
Do you build engines, or do you buy blocks from it? Do you build your own blocks, or do you buy engine components? And can you, once you're going along, you say, here's something we could try and might make it a little stronger, a little more horsepower. Can you do that, or do you do that?
Right now, we're just using block castings and head castings from the Mazda MZR engine.
Okay.
everything else we make pretty much. Like if you look at the outside of the engine, the injection, the belt drive system, the pulleys, the covers, the flywheels, the oil pump, the oil filter, we make all of that in-house.
Oh, really?
So that's why I was saying earlier about, we're right on the edge here of the ability of building our own engine from scratch. I did find out here just recently that around the West Bend area, we have quite a hotbed of different industries, foundries. We have castings and stuff poured down here in Lannon. We even found a place that can do cast iron crankshafts like the 1970 Pinto engine, which those crankshafts are like gold now. So we have other projects out there, and the oil pumps, all kinds of stuff we make for different SCCA engines as well.
Well, it seems like you're at the office all day and you're busy all day, and how many people do you employ in your office that work building engines and parts and pieces?
Right now we have 4 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees, 1 fly-in guy for support at the racetrack, and it's barely enough. I'm in the office by myself and running the program, basically keeping the ship pointed in the right direction. Logan does all the cylinder heads. Zane, super good kid that I got lucky when I found him. Just walked in one day and he told me, if you can teach me a career, my mom said I don't have to go to college. And I was like, I like this kid already. And he has assembled every PM18 engine for the last 2 years. And I think he's 19 years old.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Boy. Well, Steve, I know you're busy, and I've known you. I met you when you first came to the Speedway. Now, why you stopped and talked to me is beyond me, but you did. And I've watched as you went along and what you're doing now, and found it interesting. So the last time I saw it was in St. Pete, actually. I forget, I was somewhere. Where was I? And you were, I know, was it the Dan Anderson's hospitality in St. Pete?
Yep, with Anderson, I saw you there.
And you were chatting. I said, would you do with this? And he said, sure. And figuring, hell, he won't call me. He'll forget about it. He's getting old. He'll forget. Well, I didn't forget. Here you are. And I appreciate you taking the time. It's been fun to watch what you've done and how you've done it. And the more I look into it, I'm thinking, wow, this is what I like about motorsports. Involved in the smarts, stuff that you never think somebody could build and design, but they do. And it works. It's fun to talk to you. I appreciate your time. One of these days, while I can still talk and see, I might ring you up.
Sounds good. Good to see you, Don.
It's always a pleasure to see you, Steve, and keep up the good work. And I don't make it to the racetrack. I've got Peacock, and we get to see some of your cars run. So I'll watch for one that goes poof and smoke. Probably won't see it though.
Let's hope not.
So, all right. My guest has been Steve Knapp from West Bend, Wisconsin, the owner and operator of Elite Engines, builds all the engines for the USF 2000, is now working on the USF Junior Series. So when you see these cars run, you see how well they run, you can look at it and say, oh, I saw the guy that builds them. We'll be back again. We have more guests lined up in the upcoming weeks and days, so stick with us until the next time. Don, thanks for being here. We'll see you again.